Hello there. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Eric Matthews' Old Age and Dependency. This is the fourth chapter, I believe, in the book. It's the start of a new section, so the conversation here will be switching to new topics a bit more than the previous three lectures. Now, what is Eric Matthews' article about? Essentially, he's critiquing Kant's notion of autonomy and suggesting that we should take into consideration a new ethical criterion, namely dependency, especially when dealing with aged people and people with experiencing cognitive decline, like Alzheimer's patients or people with old age related dementia. Now, um, what can I say? Well, I suppose we should start off talking about autonomy. This is what medical ethicists think is the important thing to assure that we treat people in cognitive decline with dignity. So, like the formulation of medical ethicists generally, and this is a formulation that Eric Matthews is criticizing. The formulation is we treat a person with dignity is the aim, and we can only treat a person who is autonomous with dignity. So autonomy is a necessary feature of dignity. And now where's this autonomy and what does it mean? Well, it comes from Immanuel Kant, who I've talked about before. Now basically Immanuel Kant came up with three categorical imperatives, and the third one says, look, at what is most important is everybody with rationality, everybody who has the capacity to reason is to be regarded as a full-fledged human being, and we should treat them with dignity. Now, that sounds great, and a lot of people have taken that and run with it. Kant thought it was right. But this presents a big problem. What about people who have diminished rational capacities, i.e., people with dementia, i.e., people who are experiencing cognitive decline? What are we going to do with these people? How are we to treat them to ensure that they have some level of autonomy? Uh, it's a big question, right? Like if in order to be treated with dignity, you must have autonomy. What do you do when you're faced with a person who doesn't have autonomy? And autonomy, remember, is defined as the ability to use reason. Hmm. That's just think about it. Think about it for a minute. This applies to old people. This also applies to children who can't really make informed decisions about anything, right? Because they just don't know. They don't understand the stakes. Like, oh, well, like if you go up to a 3-year-old and say, okay, well, I need to perform this series of medical tests on you, and they're a bit dangerous, the child might not have any real comprehension of that. Similarly, an old person who's experiencing cognitive decline. How are you going to communicate the severity of the treatments that they might have to undergo? You can't do it because they lack their reasoning capacities might have been severely diminished. This also might apply to people who have had severe brain injuries. This might apply to people who are who are experiencing drug-related problems. So, how do you make sure that you are communicating to these people so that they can make a rational choice? Eric Matthews' ultimate answer is, look, you can't. You can't be sure that you are maintaining or that they have autonomy. They don't have it. And because they don't have it, it seems that if we latch on to autonomy as the only way to assure that we're treating them with dignity, we're screwed. We can't do it. So, what is Eric Matthews? So that's his critique of Kant. Now, what's the positive suggestion? Well, Eric Matthews says, look, maybe we should just recognize that people we should recognize the importance of dependency, that people are interdependent. This is a phenomenological insight. In this chapter, Matthews links or attributes it to Heidegger and Merleau-Ponty. Martin Heidegger, German philosopher, Nazi. Merleau-Ponty, French philosopher. We've talked about him a bit before, and much cooler than Heidegger. For the purposes, for you guys, all you need to know is it comes from Merleau-Ponty. I'm not ever going to talk about Heidegger again. I hate him. I don't like Nazis. They're bastards. Okay, so what are we going to say about Merleau-Ponty's concept of dependency? Where does it come from in his philosophy? Well, Merleau-Ponty says in the phenomenology of perception, look at, we are all interdependent embodied entities. That's the definition of human. So Kant said human has autonomy. That's the definition. If you have autonomy, you are a human. Merleau-Ponty says, nope, wrong definition. That's not how we define a human. Human being is an embodied consciousness in relation with others. And so how can I assure an entity's humanity? I recognize them as an embodied human, an embodied consciousness in relation to others. That's the key. Another way of saying this is recognize that they are dependent. They are dependent on their whole world. They are dependent on their bodies, and they are dependent on their interaction with other people. Now, Matthew suggests that Merleau-Ponty's observations about the nature of human existence will change the way medical professionals interact with patients who suffer from various forms of cognitive decline. One of the takeaways of Merleau-Ponty's phenomenology is that people who suffer from cognitive decline are not dehumanized. They are not lesser humans because they are less rational. They are, and Matthew summarizes, this is a quote from page 70, which I'll just read the entirety of. My identity as an individual on this view goes beyond the conscious sense of myself. It develops in the course of my life as experiences accumulate and are remembered. These memories are themselves not necessarily conscious, but are sedimented, to use Merleau-Ponty's term, in my bodily habits of response, so that they continue to constitute an individual identity even when conscious recollection is lost. Those who are demented have undoubtedly lost something. The point is that they have not lost everything which is worthy of moral respect. They remain subjects, able to communicate with other subjects, and so to be recognized by them as separate individuals. So, the takeaway, recognize that people are dependent. People who are demented, people who are suffering from advanced Alzheimer's, healthcare professionals need to recognize that even though they have diminished rational capacities, they're still human. They are still human in the sense that they are dependent, and in the sense that they have meaningful relationships with another. So this is the thing to recognize. Matthew suggests that if we recognize their dependency, if we, being healthcare professionals, recognize that a person experiencing cognitive decline is dependent on us, what this will tend toward a more dignified treatment of them. So forget autonomy. Forget this concept of autonomy when dealing with patients. What you should be thinking about is, how are these people dependent? Your question going forward, the question that should be asked by medical professionals, according to Matthews, is not, is this person autonomous? Is this person a rational agent? The question you should ask, according to Matthews, how is this person dependent? How is this person vulnerable? If that's our question going forward, then Matthews thinks this will yield a better treatment of patients. And that's the end of the lecture. The handout is already online. I hope you looked at it. And the discussion question, please answer it. Again, what I'm looking for in a discussion question is a fairly long paragraph no more than a page. But like some people are like writing like 3 lines. I want a bit more than that, people. I'd like a good, long, solid paragraph that is maximum 1 page in length. Okay, thank you very much. Have a great day. Go recognize and celebrate your interdependence with others. Bye-bye.